You're listening to the Literary Entrepreneur Podcast, episode 24. Welcome to this edition of the Literary Entrepreneur Podcast. We are back after a long hiatus, but we are so excited to come to you with what I hope to be a series of authors from a book that is going to be released in July 2015. That'll be July 1st, 2015. And we're going to talk with the person who is responsible for this book, and that book is called Will the R.E.A.L, Authorpreneur Please Stand Up. And so tonight we're going to be talking to none other than Sharon Jenkins, who is compilation editor behind Will the R.E.A.L, Authorpreneur Please Stand Up. So we're going to talk to her, and we're going to find out a little bit of, why she decided to put this book together, and who you can find out who is a part of this wonderful compilation. So Sharon, welcome to the show.
Oh, Ty-Ora, I am so glad to be here. I enjoy being interviewed, and I also enjoy interviewing others. So it feels a little different being in the other side of the microphone, but hey, it's part of the magic that we call book publishing.
Oh, yes, and you are definitely one who has done many, many interviews. I've been on your radio show and also on your Google Hangout that you do, the Literary Fellowship. So I'm excited to have you as my guest and to be able to interview you tonight. So before we jump into about the book, let's talk a little bit about your background, Sharon. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What are some of the things you like to do when you're not writing or doing author things?
I like looking at romantic comedies. I like things that make me laugh and make my heart smile. So I love happily ever afters. So I don't have to read about them in the book, even though that's very nice. But I love seeing them on screen, and they make my heart smile.
Awesome. Romantic comedy. That sounds like a good pastime, something to make you laugh and make you feel good. So, Sharon, how long have you been an author? Tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an author and your first book.
Well, I would say I've been serious about, I won't say serious about writing, because I started writing when I was 8, and then in the 80s, I'm telling how old I am, but in the 80s I would do spoken word, and I would do my own stuff, and then I wrote plays, Christian plays, and I would produce and direct those Christian plays. So I've had a lot of fun getting to the point where I actually sat down and authored a book. And I first started out with a book called The Songs of Three Sisters. 2 other women and myself sat down and we co-authored a book of poetry. And a lot of times people say, well, poetry is personal, and so it doesn't really touch the heart of everyone. But because we had 3 distinctly different personalities, when you picked up the book, you could find yourself somewhere in the book. And people loved our poetry, but they loved our testimonies even more so. So that was a great experience, and out of the other 2 ladies, I've gone on and I've written a couple of other books. I've participated in several compilations, so I understand their dynamics very well. But my first solo project was Beyond the Closet Door, Christ's Rescue from Abuse. And I incorporated my own personal story into a love story about Christ the Rescuer. Sometimes we get lost up in the trials and tribulations that we face, and a lot of it is because we're leaning on our own understanding. But Christ is always there, standing at the door, awaiting us to come to him, to hear the answer of his heart. And he holds the answer not only in his heart but also in his hands. And he lovingly administers that. And so I wrote the book to encourage adult children who had been abused when they were young, to encourage them to see Christ as their rescuer and to pull them into their divine purpose and to no longer allow that abuse to mar them or scar them so that they couldn't walk in the fullness of what God ordained them to walk in. So that was my solo project, and I went through so much time getting that done. I went to the book conferences, and the editors were telling me unless I was Oprah, nobody wanted to read my book. And, of course, the first time when you pour your heart and soul into something, and that's the response you get from the quote-unquote experts, it kind of pierces you. So I ended up throwing my manuscript, and Lord knows I wouldn't show that manuscript to anybody today. But I ended up throwing my little manuscript in the trash and saying, I'm not going to do this. This is too hard. But God had a mission that preceded my discomfort and my disappointment. And so 6 months later, I found myself digging in the trash, trying to find that manuscript. And I said, this time, we won't just talk about me. We'll talk about what God says about each of the facets of my journey, being a child of abuse, and how it affected me as an adult, and what God says about each of those periods of time in my life. And so I've had the privilege of giving that book away because it's ministered to quite a few people. I was very transparent and very raw in the book. It's full of God's word, but it's not full of platitudes. It's real scriptures to help you deal with your real situation so you can walk in the fullness of what God called you to. And so out of my own personal struggle, not only with abuse, but also out of my own personal struggle as an author, to be heard, to be seen, to be recognized, and I think I kind of got full tie when I was doing the spoken word. I mean, people loved me to do spoken word, and it was my stuff, and it was so easy, and they received me so well. And to sit down and to write over almost 200 pages of something and somebody tell me, nobody wants to read this, I wasn't prepared for that. And out of that discomfort and that discouragement broke my heart for authors, people who are new to the process, and they just need a gentle guiding hand to take them from point A to point B. And that in turn resulted in me doing conferences and also having a radio program for 3 years and doing webinars and seminars and doing some book coaching with other aspiring authors. And the beauty of it all, I learned my craft. I didn't go to school for it, but I learned my craft through experience. And as a result, I will tell you, last year I helped 10 people ghostwrite their books. And for me, that is phenomenal because I sincerely believe in equipping others to pursue their vision. So that also resulted in the book Authorpreneurship, the business side of writing, which turned into Authorpreneurship, the startup manual for authors. So I am so impassioned in this journey that authors have, and I've fallen so much in love with them that I have dedicated a part of the rest of my life to helping them fulfill their God purpose.
Just to take a step back for anyone who may not have heard the term authorpreneur, can you kind of break that down and tell us, what does that mean?
Well, you look at the two words that make up the term. An author is, of course, someone who writes a book or writes a blog or, and then their aim is to be published. An entrepreneur is someone who starts a business and expects to make money from that business. So what we did was we took that term, the author and the preneur, and added it together, because you cannot effectively have success in the industry, especially today's industry, without mastering the business side of writing. And that is the editing, having your book edited, distributed, marketed, you name it, all those wonderful things that authors don't think about in the midst of putting their manuscript together. And I applaud any author who goes through great lengths in order to master the craft of writing. But authorpreneurship incorporates all of the facets of getting your book published, and also it helps you set up a plan to keep your book out there for a long period of time. There are a lot of people who are overnight wonders. They're here today and gone tomorrow. That's why we have a new New York Times bestselling list often, and the reason people stay on that list for 20 weeks, some people stay on that list for years, is because they've truly mastered the business side of writing. They're great writers, and sometimes some not-so-great writers get on board, but they know how to market themselves, and they know how to market their book. And that's where the term authorpreneurship came from.
Okay, well, let's jump into your new book, which is entitled Will the R.E.A.L, Authorpreneur Please Stand Up. Now, with that title, why did you come up with that title? And I know you just talked about how you have some authors, they have mastered the business of writing, and then you have others who are just kind of pushing a button and they're putting a book out, but they're not very successful. So how do people know who are the real entrepreneurs? Is that what you're trying to do with this book?
Well, let me tell you where the idea came from for the real entrepreneur. There used to be a television program back in the 50s and 60s called To Tell the Truth. And what would happen is a panel of experts would have to determine out of 3 imposters who was the real person that was being described, that they got to get snippets of their life story, and then they had to make a decision as to which one of the imposters was the real person. Well, in the world that we live in, the literary world that we live in, are a lot of people who have published one book, and the next thing you know, they're professing themselves to be experts. But an expert is more than just a person who has accomplished an objective or a goal. It is a person who has lived for several years and mastered several facets of a particular industry or thing. So when you look at entrepreneurs, you need to look for more than just the fact that they have a book in hand. You need to know what a good book looks like, what excellence looks like in publishing, and you need to be able to strive for that. You need to know not only that, you need to know what is your marketing strategy for your book. How are you going to project yourself from the time, from your book cover, front and back, to your internal layout? All those things matter. People who have been in the industry for centuries, for decades, they know what a good book looks like. And the people who are making the decisions on the traditional publishing house side of the business and some of the hybrid publishing houses, they know what a good book looks like, and they know what a good author looks like. How many copies have you sold? That's a legitimate question, and a lot of self-published authors, they don't think about those things. They don't think about the legal aspects. being an author. And so the reason why I wrote this book is to help people to see that an authorpreneur is a real living being. You become an authorpreneur when you incorporate all that you know into your book project and make it an official business. And these are 13 people who have done just that and excelled. Some of them still have a day job, but they have mastered the business side of writing because they use the same tools that have made them successful in their careers and their professions to apply it to marketing and producing and publishing their books. So that's why I wrote the book, because even in the industry, there were some people, I call them old hats, and I have much respect for them and in high regard, even though sometimes they don't think that. I have so much high regard for them because in the season and in the time, they were excellent and they were professional in what they did, and they laid the pathway for excellence in the industry. And so they're great resources, and even they're putting out great books and great material even now as I speak. But when there's a major paradigm shift in an industry, you either have to get up and catch up, or you're going to end up being rolled over by, like a steamroller rolling over you. Why? Because things change. Things change. I am 58 years young, and I can tell you that I have seen a lot of things happen in life. I remember the old typewriters where you had to use carbon paper and white out, and you had to have all wonderful, the machines where you made copy, and it had that, I forget the name of the machine, but it had that, I can still smell that smell, the ink smell that that you ran into when you were close to that machine. I remember computers taking up an entire room in the punch card. So if I spoke that to someone who was 21, 22, or had a conversation with them about that, they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get it. So as we have had to change, as old hats have had to change, we also need to be experts in what are the best methods to promote our book, or what's the best method to publish our book based on our particular goal and strategy for success. And every person in this book, yourself included, Tyra, has stepped up to the plate and you hit a home run on everything that you've done. And by submitting to the process, being teachable, and excelling at the things that you've done in regards to publishing.
Awesome. And I do thank you for having the opportunity to be a part of this compilation. Tell us who else is in the compilation. Tell us some of the people your listeners or their listeners may know.
Well, I have some well-known people, and then I have some entrepreneurs that have excelled locally and also nationally in different areas. For example, Nina Amir, she is very well known in the publishing industry, and I was thrilled beyond thrilled that she agreed to be in this compilation because she's done a ebook on entrepreneurship. And she's had quite a bit of success in the industry in helping people realize their publishing dreams or their literary dreams. So she has such a reach, and I could spend all day talking about her success alone. And then there is you, of course, Tyra, and I want to talk a little bit about you because I love the way you got into the industry. I love the fact that you actually worked with authors several years before you decided to write a book. So you studied and you showed yourself approved, and I watch you do several projects, and I love your marketing. I love your consistency. I love the fact that you embrace your project and you give it 100%. And people no one would know that wasn't something that you did 24/7.
Oh, no, I definitely don't do it 24/7. Thank you. I'm just a bookworm who, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to write. Yes, I knew it was a business long before I started writing, and that has helped a lot. So tell us a little bit about some of the other people in the book. I'm just excited to be among such a diverse group. You have the greatest group I've seen in a compilation ever.
I was deliberate in getting a diverse group of authors together, simply because the pen knows no color, knows no division. Actually, the pen is the thing that could bring us all together. There have been people who've written things that have changed the face of religion, that have changed the face of politics. There have been speeches that have been written that have motivated people to tears or to war. So the pen is very powerful, and so I love everybody that's a part of the compilation. We actually have, Matilda Butler. I love her, love her, love her, love her, love her. She has written about an era of women who came before the women livers, who stood beside their country during the course of war and did the things that men usually do while they were at war and kept this country alive. And I love her, the way that she takes a personal story and makes it even more lively. So you want to make sure you check out Matilda Butler. Then we had Joe Friedlander, and I'm so happy that he's a part of the compilation simply because he is a walking book on publishing himself. Not only has he published numerous books and blogs about the topic, he has put together several websites that help authors. So one of the key things that I love about the compilation, one of the qualifying factors was the fact that you had to do something you have to have done something to help authors. Not just be excellent in your business, but also have done something that you've done to really help authors to excel in their craft. Rochelle Carter, I love her, love her, love her. She started a publishing company and built it from the ground up, and it's now an award-winning publishing company. And I'm proud to say that she's my partner. We have come into agreement with this authorpreneurship thing, and she really loves authors. I see that in everything that she does. She does it with great care and consideration. And those are two key elements that you need to have, and I feel, in order to be an entrepreneur, because you need to have a servant leader's heart, and Rochelle has that servant leader's heart.
Awesome. I'm just excited about it coming out soon so that everyone can get their hands on it. And you had something that they can get their hands on now. You had a tip book. I thought that was just a neat idea.
Well, you know what? It's common in some industries for you to do a precursor to the actual product or service. And the entrepreneur and me decided that we needed to do something to whet the appetite of those who are seriously considering entrepreneurship. And so we got tips from most of the contributors and put them in the 81 Tips book. And if you want to know what's get a snapshot of what's in The Real Entrepreneur, Will the Real Entrepreneur Please Stand Up, get the Tips book. It's economically priced. We did that deliberately simply because we want you to get to know who is in the book, and we also want you to have the value of that book. I was reading one of the reviews on the Tips book, and it's just generally said I needed this book to give me an inspirational pickup. As authors, we weather all kinds of storms, not just on the business side of the house, but in our writing. I mean, writer's block, I tell you. And then, we are like, our work is like under the microscope all the time because we're writing for an audience, and we want readers to read our books. And that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure on a writer. So on the cover of the book, of both books, you'll see a writer, a woman and a male, a man, with a super A on their chest. Why? That stands for super authors, because you not only have to master your craft, you also have to be a super business person. And to me, that means that you're a super individual, because you're not stuck in one mode. And, I mean, one side of you is fine and doing one thing well, that's great, but authors have to have a dual purpose when they write a book and publish a book.
For those who are looking to find out more information about the book, where can they go, Sharon?
Actually, they can go to Elocore Media's website to find out more information about the book. The book is available for pre-order on Amazon.com. And also, I strongly advise them to go and get the tips book. It's full of nuggets. And I believe, if you do a tip a day, that it will equip you. It will take you further along your publishing journey than you've ever imagined. So that's where they can actually get the book.
Awesome. And, it's been great talking to you. I know you do speaking and workshops. Are there anything coming up where people can get to see you in person talking about entrepreneurship?
Well, we're working on that right now. I'm actually going to Oregon to do a Christian Writers Conference, and we're working on some things for this summer. I've really been in the trenches with my authors the last 3 years, helping people birth. I call myself the literary midwife, helping them birth their book babies, which means that I've been behind the scenes, behind my computer. I've been on the phone helping people realize their book publishing dreams. So I just got this unction after we got the book finished that I need to get behind the mic again and just start talking to people and inspiring them to be passionate about this book writing journey, and to give them some tips that they will need in order not to be devoured in this industry. Today alone, I got over 50 requests from somebody promoting something about writing books. I can understand how an aspiring author can be overwhelmed with all that. And my role is to help them make wise decisions about their pathway to publishing.
Awesome. Well, Sharon, tell us where we can find you online, find out more about you and your other books as well.
Okay, I have a website. It is SharonCJenkins.com, just my name, SharonCJenkins.com. And also, I have a writing service. It's called the Master Communicators Writing Service, and you can find us on mcwritingservices.com, macwritingservices.com, like McDonald's. This is macwritingservices.com. It's kind of funny. My son brought that to my attention.
Okay. Well, Sharon, it's been great talking to you. I'm looking forward to the next few months to talking to other members or contributors in the Will the R.E.A.L Authorpreneur Please Stand Up. Just excited to be a part of it, and wishing you or praying for much success for this book because your passion and your love for authors, you're enthusiastic, and I want authors to really come to you and read their book and get all the good information so that they can be better entrepreneurs. So I'm really looking forward for that to happen for you in this book.
Thank you so much, Ty. And I want to just tell your listening audience they need to check the book out. I mean, in no way could I talk about every author that contributed to that book, but I can tell you there is not a single author that contributed to Authorpreneur, that contributed to that book that won't bring value to your life. And so I just had a few minutes to talk about a few of them, but go and check them out. There are tons of, oh my God, Melanie Bragg and Shelley Rice and Roxana Herrera. Oh boy, I tell you. Brian Smith. They're just wonderful people who have performed a wonderful work in the publishing industry.
Well, we're going to be really excited. I definitely want to encourage listeners to go out and get your copy of Will the R.E.A.L, Authorpreneur Please Stand Up. The compilation editor, Sharon Jenkins, that's who we were talking to tonight, and we're just looking forward to more and more coming from you, Sharon, to help authors out. So thank you once again for joining us on the Literary Entrepreneur Podcast.
Thank you once again for listening to the Literary Entrepreneur Podcast. You can listen to the official podcast feed on theliteraryentrepreneur.com or subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, Spreaker.com, or you can find us on YouTube.com. Just as a reminder, I want to let you know before you leave us for today that you're more than an author. You are a literary entrepreneur. Writing and marketing books is a business. Let's learn how to attract readers to your books together.